Hey everyone, John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com, and this week I'm going to talk to you about something that is somewhat controversial. I'm going to tell you something that you're probably not going to like to hear, that you're probably not going to believe, and that is that you are a slave. That's right, your mind is in a system of slavery that you're not even aware of, most likely, and that you can't even see. Now, before I get into the details of why I'm saying this, let me tell you a story about why I'm making this video today. I was actually planning on doing a different video, but I was looking at a video on Yahoo Finance on a guy that I follow that goes by the name of Mr. Money Mustache. Now, he's a guy that retired at 30 years old. Him and his wife both saved their money from about 20 to 30, about 70% of their income, believe it or not, and they amassed about $800,000, which was allocated in some real estate investment as well as some stocks that paid dividends. So they got to this point at 30 years old where they had about $30,000 of passive income per year, and they could live off of that, and they could live comfortably off of that by living frugally, by making smart decisions, by not buying so heavily into the American consumerism. And their story was on Yahoo Finance, and I expected to see some negative comments. I expected to see some people discarding what they had done and discrediting them, but I did not expect to see 95% or more of the comments all being negative. And I didn't expect that so many people would have upvoted these negative comments and backed them and believe the same thing that these naysayers were saying. I saw people that were personally attacking him, calling him a liar, that were saying flat out that it was impossible what he was saying, that in their own limited view, that you could not possibly retire off of $800,000, that you could not possibly save $800,000 in a decade, even with two incomes, that he must have gotten lucky, won the lottery, someone must have given him money, that he's just lying, that there's some other piece of this story, and that he was a fool. There were people wishing him harm, that were wishing that he would run out of money and then have to stand in line at a food bank. This is ridiculous. But this is just an example of how many of us think. In fact, I think probably, to tell you the truth, many people viewing this video right now, many of you would probably have that same kind of mindset. And I'm not blaming you for that. It's not entirely your fault, although you do have some responsibility for enslaving your mind or allowing it to continue to be enslaved. Let me give you an example. When you read on some news site about science and you read an article that talks about and just takes for granted how old the earth is, millions of years ago this happened, do you question that? Do you say, how could they possibly know what happened millions of years ago? Probably not. Most people don't. In fact, if you do, you're taken as a crackpot. What about astronomy? What about, do you just assume that scientists are correct when they say that there's 90% of the matter in the universe is dark matter that's undetectable, and that the only reason why they came up with that is because it fits their models and their way of thinking, that it explains how they could not be wrong? Do you take that for granted when they talk about planets that are thousands or hundreds of light years away and what the atmosphere consists of? Do you actually believe that, or do you question that? So many of us don't question that. When you go to school, do you question what you're being taught? Do you even question the premise of school? Now, I'm a person that believes that education is, for the most part, crap. And what I mean by that is that education is an institutionalized form of training where you are trading your own values and preconceptions and notions for some other set of values that is enforced by someone else. Now, learning has value. I'm not against learning. In fact, that's what I do. I help people learn. When I teach, I'm helping someone learn. I'm not trying to educate them. But we are born into systems of education. We believe from when we are young that we need to become educated, we need to go to college, get a degree so we can get a job, so we can work for someone else, take home a meager paycheck, that we'll take some of that and we'll put it into our 401k because that's the smart thing to do, and that money will magically grow. Not because of any effort of our own, but just because we've saved it, and that money needs to grow, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to someday, when we're 65, retire and hopefully be able to have enough money to barely live out the rest of our life. This is not the truth. This is a system of beliefs and values that has been imposed upon you by someone else. You are accepting this form of slavery if you believe that to be true. If you look at Mr. Money Mustache and his retiring at 30 and the way that he did it, and you say, that's not possible, then you are part of that system. You believe something that is untrue. You are not using your mind to evaluate the world around you and to determine for yourself what is true or false. You're placing false limits on yourself. You're living within the confines of this system. Now, this can affect you in all different kinds of ways. I normally talk about programming and software development, and if you think it doesn't apply there, you're mistaken as well. In fact, that's part of the reason why I created simpleprogrammer.com, and I'm working on some other projects to even further carry this flag forward. And what is central to this idea is that traditional education, these knowledge barriers that people are using as strongholds, need to be broken down. They're giving us a false sense of reality, and they're limiting people. There's no reason why things need to be presented as complex. People who are able to do things that sometimes we view as complicated are not superhuman. They're not geniuses. They're just normal people, and we can all achieve those same things. Programming isn't hard. Software development isn't hard. Architects aren't special. They may have experience and knowledge, but this is experience and knowledge that all of us can acquire, and usually this experience and knowledge is puffed up. They try to make it seem like a lot more than it is, and that's really what I'm here to tell you, is that that's not true. You need to break out of this system of thinking. You need to realize that you don't have limits, that what you've been told might not be true, that you can think for yourself and learn on your own and discover your own path, and that path doesn't have to be the way that everyone thinks. So if you agree with what I'm saying, and you think there's some value in this message, I've got one simple task for you today. Share it. Put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social networks you subscribe to. Share the message, and let's see if we can make some traction in this area and help other people to see the slavery that they're living in.